Well, starting next Monday, convicted child rapists could face the death penalty. The new Tennessee law passed with overwhelming support, but some Democratic lawmakers think the seemingly good idea may actually do more harm to victims in the long run. 45 people sit on Tennessee's death row. One woman and 44 men, all convicted of murder. The oldest is 74-year-old Oscar Smith. He's been here since 1990. But Larry McKay has been here the longest. The 68-year-old has been locked up for 41 years. Both inmates waiting for their sentence to be carried out or face the possibility of dying in prison before that. Criminal defense attorney Mark O'Mara knows the price of the waiting game. He's successfully kept clients off death row his entire career.
It cost about $20,000, give or take, to keep somebody in prison. So average length, 40 years, that's $800,000 to house them until they die of natural causes in prison. On the other hand, a death penalty trial and all the consequent appeals are extraordinarily expensive. The range goes from $7–8 million to as high as $12 million.
And Tennessee's death row could get even more crowded this year. Senator Jack Johnson sponsored a bill signed into law by Governor Lee that now gives prosecutors the option to introduce the death penalty as punishment for convicted child rapists. A more significant burden for taxpayers, but a cost that Senator Jack Johnson thinks is well worth it.
I'm not concerned about what's cheaper. I'm not concerned about what saves money. What I'm more concerned about is making sure that people who can commit such a horrible, heinous act as raping a child get the punishment that they deserve.
Democratic lawmaker Gloria Johnson thinks the death penalty route for these hideous crimes will bring unintended consequences to those who deserve the most protection.
This person gets the death penalty. They're going to be dragging that child back into court every year for the appeals, having them relive that rape every time there's an appeal, and that can go on for years. That is not the situation with a life in prison without parole, 100% time served.
In 2008, the U.S. Supreme Court heard Kennedy versus Louisiana, a man citing the 8th Amendment of cruel and unusual punishment to appeal his death sentence for the rape of a child who did not die. In a 5-4 decision, the High Court struck down the Louisiana statute. Former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, writing for the majority, saying as it relates to crimes against individuals, the death penalty should not be expanded to instances where the victim's life was not taken. Tennessee and several other states have since defied that ruling, including Arizona, Idaho, Missouri, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Florida have all introduced legislation, but only Florida and Tennessee have affirmed the death penalty punishment for convicted child rapists. Florida criminal defense attorney Mark O'Mara doesn't believe in the death penalty and doesn't think it's a good deterrent for crime.
It's so hard to wrap your head around because you think if you're a parent and this happens to your child, your natural instinct would be death penalty.
Look, personally, I agree. If it was a child of mine or a cousin or a nephew, obviously, but the reason why we don't let the mob mentality occur, the reason why we do have rules and rules of court, and the reason why we have a jury picked in part by the defendant is to try and take us away from the emotionalism of it.
Despite the Supreme Court ruling it's unconstitutional to impose the death penalty for a crime that did not involve a death, 9 states still allow the death penalty for treason. 5 states allow it for aggravated kidnapping. A drug trafficking conviction can lead to a death sentence in Missouri and Florida. And airplane hijacking can land you on death row in Georgia. New Mexico listed espionage as a capital punishment crime before abolishing the death penalty after Kennedy versus Louisiana.
Monday on Fox 17 News at 9, the timing of this new law comes as a moratorium has been in place for the death penalty here in Tennessee since 2022.